Happy 4th of July, everyone. And just as a reminder, Kyle's other podcast, the Dork Day Afternoon set of family of podcasts, drops today on the 4th of July with 2 episodes, 3 hours total for their new role-playing game, 2 Past Midnight, which I'm listening to right now as we speak. And it's pretty cool. So I'm going to play their trailer one more time. And then at that point, I think you guys know that it's out. And you can check it out if you like. And we hope you enjoy Kyle's other foray into podcasting, only this time, role-playing game. So, hey, happy 4th of July, everyone.
Prepare yourself for Dork Day Afternoon, a brand new actual play podcast.
You performers! Oh, that's fun.
The brainchild of 2 brothers, spawned from their desire to crush the fictional hopes and dreams of their friends and loved ones.
You remember what I said about being a monster of a GM?
Someone has to be a monster, and the GM's the one who probably should be.
2 shows every week. On Mondays, coming to you from the end of the world, 2 Past Midnight, a Twilight 2000 4th edition campaign.
As if being in prison wasn't stress enough. War is hell, gentlemen.
And on Thursdays, the circus comes to town with Encore of the Lost, a playthrough of the Extinction Curse AP, written for Pathfinder 2nd Edition.
Valiant, no!
What is it, Pumpkin? I'm looking at pumpkins.
Roll for initiative.
Natural 20 for a total of 24.
25.
You.
Dork Day Afternoon. Listen, your life might just depend on it.
Aloha! This is Jason from Hawaii. Welcome to a special edition of the Comics for Fun and Profit podcast. In this episode, I will be interviewing Harvey Award winner and New York Times best-selling creator Matt Kindt. Matt is here to promote his Flux House imprint at Dark Horse. Matt, welcome to Comics for Fun and Profit. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
No, thank you very much. Now, Matt, I'm just going to go over your brief history. So, Matt has been making comics since about 2003. Is that correct? About there?
Yeah, 2001 is my first book.
Okay, sorry.
Okay.
Enough. Now, on your webpage, you under the section about Matt, Matt has stated that this is his best job ever. That's correct. I take it.
Yeah. It's there's a point where I was doing comics, and then I transitioned to doing comics full time, but there's still like a year or two where I was doing it, where I was like, am I gonna be able to keep doing this, or am I gonna have to go back try to find a regular job? Like, graphic design was my real jobs. I was like, am I gonna have to go back to that? Like, is this going to be enough money, and will we be able to survive? And we're having a kid and everything. And then I realized after 2 years, after 3 years of doing it, I was like, oh, I'm ruined for a real job. I could never go back to a real job. I'd be the worst worker. Like comics spoiled me in such a way where, like, I only want to do what I want to do and how I want to do it. And I don't want to be told what to do. So I couldn't go back. There was a point where there was the point of no return where I couldn't go back to a normal job. I don't know what I would do.
Now, I'm going to go over your amazing work, and I'm just going to name a few, and feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, okay? So my understanding is that your first Dark Horse story that you did was back in 2010. It was Super Spy. It was a short story that appeared in Dark Horse Comics Presents on MySpace webcomic. Is that correct? That's the information I got.
You probably know better than I do. I don't remember that.
Okay, that's fine.
I don't remember, but yes, that sounds familiar.
Now, of course, everyone knows about Mind Management, Pistol Whip, Apache Delivery Service. One of your recent ones is ENIAC from, I believe it was Bad Idea. Is that correct? ENIAC?
Yeah, that's right.
Berserker, Department H. And then I know you did some work for Valiant, which is like Divinity, Ninjak, and you co-wrote with Jeff Lemire my favorite Valiant crossover miniseries, The Valiant. That
Yeah.
4 issue, I love that. I love it.
Yeah. Oh, thanks so much. Yeah, and Paulo Rivera did the art on that. And it's the one time I got to work with him, and he was so amazing. I own a page of that. I just had to have with Ninjak on it. That's so good.
Oh my God. Sorry, I'm just going off the cuff here, but I don't know. I mean, I like crossovers, they're big, they're fun, but this crossover was a little different. It was I don't know how to describe, but it just really spoke to me. And I love the first few pages of the Eternal Warrior having and I can't remember who he kept fighting with. That's sorry about that, but it was just, and he kept losing the battles over over centuries, and
Yeah.
heartbreaking.
That was one of those, to me, that was one of those like retcon ideas I had where like Eternal Warrior has those like 4 scars across his face. He's had them since
Yes.
I was a fan of Valiant back in the 90s. And so it was one of those moments where I was like, oh, like how did he get those scars? We never really say. So I was like, it'd be cool if he got those scars by he's fighting this villain and the villain is keeping score on his face. So like those are reminders to Eternal Warrior that every failure he's had, every major failure. So he's just like, and he's giving him those marks on his face. And it was, I don't know. Sometimes you just have an idea like that, and it's just like, oh, that's as a fan of the character, like I'm excited about it. Anyway.
Oh, no wonder I because one of and now since you explained that to me, now I understand why in the first few pages, I would see up close of his face what the there'd be like a scratch. It's like, oh, okay, now I get it. Oh.
Yeah, it's like the bad guy's keeping score on the good guy's face.
And then it's always a reminder to the Eternal Warrior whenever he looks in anything. It's like, I got this one from this, when I fought him this time, when I tried to save the princess or whoever, he got the princess oh, okay. Now, did I miss anything?
There's probably like a million things, but here's the thing, I'm not going to remember them either. So you just talk about the stuff that's interesting to you, and we'll talk about it. But yeah, I wrote like so many things. I think the first book I did for Dark Horse that I remember, like actual book, was 3-story Secret History of the Giant Man. Mm-hmm. I think that was like one of my first original graphic novels I did for Dark Horse. That might be the first. Again, I know Super Spy, I must have done that short story because you said I did, but 3 stories the first thing I remember.
Oh, okay. All right. Now, I'm going to continue on now. Before we begin the interview, I just want to give a big shout out to David Hyde and Hannah Bahedri of Superfan Promotions. For setting up this interview. So David and Hannah, thank you very much. I'm just going to ask, do you want to add anything to that?
No, I thanks to them. They've been super helpful, and David's been working with me for years, just like helping out. So
no, but thank you. Also, I want to let you know that I got now to listeners, I just want to let you guys know that I got some of Matt's informations, from a YouTube podcast. Ross Ritchie, the founder, now correct me if I'm wrong, the founder and CEO of Boom Studios. That was back last year in February 25th, 2021. I also got some information for this podcast from the Superfan Promotion press release and from Matt's own website. And then this is the perfect time, Matt. Where can listeners follow you on social media?
Social media, I'm on everything: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, just my name. Mm-hmm. It's like Matt Kindt on most of those. You can find me.
All right. So, Matt, I'm going to start off. Where did you grow up?
I mostly grew up in St. Louis. I think I graduated high school here, and we've been here for since 1990. However many years that is, 31 years. So I would say that's growing up here mostly.
Mm-hmm. And then, do you remember what was your first comic or Sunday comics that you read growing up?
Yeah, it's funny, like I get asked this question a lot, and like the main answer is like the Frank Miller Daredevil is what I kind of grew up. That was like the thing I was first reading.
Yes.
But I was trying to think today. I was like, what other early formative stuff was there? And I think weirdly, one of the I remember being at my aunt's house in New York and just like killing time there, and she had like every Garfield book. So like in one summer, I read every single Garfield book because it's all there was. I didn't have any comics there. There's no comic shop, and then there's no whatever. I was just desperate for any kind of comic books, and so I remember reading through all of those. And anyway, I don't know. I don't think they had any influence on me other than like, well, I don't want to do this. This is the thing I don't want to do. But I just remember having a fun time or like eating M&Ms and watching or reading Garfield all summer.
Yeah, but that's the pretty cool thing about it. It's just to enjoy it, right?
Yeah. No, it's funny. You never know like what random thing you're gonna be exposed to, and then it's gonna have like kind of a fond memory for you when you're older.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
one of those.
Now, listeners, this it's obvious that this is an audio podcast, but we're doing this video feed, Zoom video feed, and over on Matt's right hand shoulder, he's got this amazing spinner rack. I mean, it's
spinning
got,
it.
like Challengers of the Unknown from the 60s. Oh my God, Fantastic Four from the 70s. Oh my God.
8-Ball up there.
8-Ball, yeah. That was one. 8-Ball was the one I think you talked to Ross about. Was that the one you picked up from Chicago Comic-Con from Fantagraphics booth? Is that correct?
Yeah. That was the first book I picked up where I was like, well, this is like a viable path for me to take. Like I could see myself making comics that are similar to this, or that sort of mixed genres, but are for grown-ups, but are all kind of fun, but also not like superheroes all the time.
Yeah.
And it was a way I could see me fitting into that. My art style is a little different, but there was a way to do it that way.
I'm going to ask, this is the perfect place. So, how did you get started working in comics?
Here's the thing. I think one of the big questions everyone asks is like, how do you break into comics? And the way to break into comics is to keep doing them, just keep making them, and so there's like no magic way to break in. And so for me, like my earliest comics were I adapted Edgar Allan Poe, Pit and the Pendulum short story, and I didn't do it. I did it more as like spot illustrations or like a collage of illustrations, and then I printed out the text of the story so it was unabridged, and I sort of like incorporated the text into the art, and just pasted the whole thing up. And I did. What's funny, like now as an adult, I was like, what was the final purpose for that? I didn't put it into a comic book. I didn't show it to anybody. I didn't do anything with it other than complete the thing, And I think that's kind of been the story of how I broke in. It was like I was just doing comics to like please myself, or to like do something that I thought was fun and entertaining, and just enjoying the process and learning how to do it and like figuring out how comics work and how to draw and different illustration styles, and I think that's the big thing. Like rather than focusing on like breaking into comics or getting your book published, for me it's always like, well, focus on enjoying it. Like you got to love it. You have to enjoy the making of it, or there's I don't think the reward is never going to be enough. You have to really like doing it.
I'm sorry, off the cuff, but that's pretty cool that you did your own version of the Edgar Allan story where that's so cool. And like you said, it's you completed it, but it's just yours. I just think that's pretty awesome. It's not like I'm going to make this for for my family to read, or I'm gonna go sell it on the street corner or something.
Yeah, no, it's funny. I don't even know. I don't know what I was thinking. Like there was no outlet for it and no reason to do it, except I'm sure it was this one summer like I spent most of my summers were like spent inside drawing, and I was just reading all the time. So I was reading science fiction books and comics and whatever I can get my hands on. And I played outside a little bit, but not that much. I did more reading than anything else.
And then I'm going to ask you, I'm going to kind of sort of backtrack. Like, what kind of books, TV shows, movies did you grow up, with? Because
I will. I'll say I spent the summer reading every comic I get my hands on, which is mostly just Marvel comics back in like the 80s, 90s. And then I would just read tons of science fiction. So I read like all of Arthur C. Clarke, Bradbury, you know what I mean? The tattooed man's book.
The Illustrated Man?
Illustrated Man, yeah. Illustrated Man. So I went through all the classic. I was like, what are the best sci-fi authors? So Clarke, Bradbury, Philip K. Dick.
Yes.
And then I'm missing somebody else in there, but yeah, just all that stuff. If it was sci-fi in the 80s, I've read it.
No, but yeah, because I've read a couple of Arthur C. Clarke's. Right now I am going through oh shoot, Meeting Rama?
Rendezvous with Rama.
Yes.
Is one of my touchstones. Like everybody I talk to, I tell them they got to read it because it's such a great idea and a great like you think the book is about one thing, and then when you're done with it, it's like it has such a bigger idea that just sucker punches you at the end and everything. But I recommend it to everybody. I was if you've worked with me in any way, at some point I've referenced that book.
Oh, okay. All right. Because like I said, it's one of those books where, and I'm sorry to say this, but I'll read it for a little while, put it down, come back a few months later, read a little bit, but because the only two Arthur C. Clarke books I've read was 2001, and then 2010. 2010 was incredible. It was nothing like it's really nothing like the movie, but
both of those books are so amazing. And then and then Rendezvous with Rama, I get it. Like it's not even. I don't think that's I don't know if it's entertaining, but it's so good. But I don't think it's satisfying either. I think the fact it's unsatisfying in such a satisfying way. If that makes sense.
Because I think, but it kind of and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but to me so far it's just because the whole idea is that it's some type of huge spaceship that comes through our solar system, and it's us going into that spaceship, and it's just almost like a it's not the first few pages like this is what we did, this is why we had to start using Indian names because we ran out of we used up all the Greek and Romans for all the other objects or meteors or whatever, and and then because I think the last thing I remember leaving was, I think when they got into the alien Rama, they have to walk down this long, as they described, this long staircase, and but that's all it is. It's just, and it's just laying facts, and it's not boring or dry or anything. It's just, this is what we're doing,
No, it's not like, I like it because it's like almost like pure ideas, and like there's very little like character. There's not really a lot of characters to care about or like plot to be concerned with. It's almost like it's like these bigger ideas, and he's just like detailing it, and it's just fascinating to me. Like, and that's what I'm saying is like, I don't know if it's entertaining in a conventional way. Like there's not like political drama or like interpersonal relationships you're like wrapped up in. Like none of that is there. But I don't really require that, and I think like as a creator, I don't really read for entertainment anyway. Like I'm reading to be inspired to come up with ideas, so like I don't I think the books that I like, or some of the things I like because it sort of spurs ideas in me. So then I feel indebted that way, or I think that's a good book or that's a good movie because it made me think of an idea.
Yes.
Well, so I don't know I rarely recommend books or movies because I don't know what people like.
Yeah. No, but I'm sorry, I'm kind of going off the cuff here, but I remember reading actually just the forward of Neil Gaiman and John Romita's The Eternals. I got the hardcover, and I read the forward, and I remember reading something about, I think, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the idea of where Jack Kirby got the idea for the Eternals was I think he read the book Chariots of the Gods. He didn't believe in that stuff about all those things, but he just loved the idea of it, and that's how he came up with supposedly how he came up with the Eternals. It gave him that idea.
Yeah, no, I think that's great, and that's to me is what is important. Is another question I often get is like, well, what comics, what do I read for inspiration? And I would say it's definitely not comics. I want to bring things not comics into comics, or do comics in a way that is different. And the only way to do that is to not. I don't want to make comics and stories that are kind of about comics and comic stories. And so like the only way to do that is like read things, travel places, research stuff, and sort of bring outside influences in. And like Kirby, I'm not surprised at all that Kirby, he's reading all kinds of stuff, and it's like it fed his engine, and it ends up going through your filter and coming out in a way that's uniquely you, and that's the way to do it.
Oh, okay. All right. Let's see. Sorry, Matt. I'm sorry. I'm going to continue on because I think this is probably the perfect segue to start talking about your Flux House imprint. Now, hopefully I'm pronouncing it correctly.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. Now, in the Superfan promotion press release, I want to read one of the quotes from IGN, and I love this because Kindt breaks all preconceived notions of what comic books are. I love it because when I was doing a little bit of research on you, it was like, and when I saw in the press release of what you're going to do with some of your Flux House comics, this is perfect. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I hope I can live up to that. But I do. I think somebody the other day they were expressing concern over like, the comics maybe being hard to get or this or that. And I to me, it's not about that. If you're not getting a comic, if you're not able to read it in a way that's easy to get and read, then what's the point? People need to be reading them. So I want to say that first before you think I'm just going off the deep end and I'm going to do some nutty stuff that is hard to get hold of or whatever. But I feel like I've been working in comics for 20 years and always been trying. At the beginning, you're trying to figure out like, how do I make comics? What can comics do? And then the older I got, the more I did. The more I was like, I'm going to try this. I'll try that. Or you start to get ideas. And I know, like, I think even with Pistol Whip was my first book, and that was kind of pretty straightforward. If anything, like I was probably influenced by like Pulp Fiction and like narratives that were sort of told out of sequence. If I was going to give my influences for that early stuff. But my second book, Two Sisters, when I hit that book, I was like, oh, I'm going to do two stories at the same time. One's in the pirate times, one is in World War II, and then sort of have them like collide at the end. So you read them both at the same time and they collide. And I was like, well, that was a little different, And then with that book, it was the first time I'd sort of come up with like artificial rules for myself too. So in Two Sisters, I decided I was going to use no captions. I felt like I was using captions to sort of as a crutch to sort of storytell. And, I was like, well, I'm going to see if I can do it without that. And then I also did, there's no like abrupt scene changes either. Like the camera would always be moving around. And so it was interesting to try to work around that with these arbitrary rules I set for myself. And then I feel like that was from the beginning, I was like, well, I'm just going to try either set up rules that I have to follow that nobody knows, just to see where that pushes me, and then just try to do things I haven't seen yet. Something that will entertain me. Super Spy. After that, there was like stuff with the cover. If you held it up to the light, there's like see-through things that had secret messages, and then there's a bunch of little tricks in Super Spy that I'm not even remembering right now, but I would just do that. Like for me, the main concern was always like, what's the story? Who are the characters? You want to be able to care about it. But then always is like a dual track running in my head, just like Two Sisters, where there's like those two tracks. My two tracks are story and character, and then the second track is like, what can I do with this format and with comics to tell this, to portray this story and a character. It's always two tracks for me that I'm trying to work at the same time. And I think a lot of times people laugh, or I'll describe an idea because I'm excited about the second track, which is like the gadgety sort of gimmicky part of the story. But that's like, I haven't seen that. That's why I'm excited. Story and character, compelling story and character, you see all the time. It's important, and I do care about it, but it's not the kid in me gets more excited about the flashier part of it. Even though that's always, for me, it's always in service of character and story. So with Flux House, it's the same. Like, I think this is like the full those ideas coming to full fruition, where now I have total creative freedom. I have budget to do some of the things that are, like, I've always been told, like, we can't, it's too expensive, or it doesn't make financial sense. I'm like, well, okay, let's now we have sort of some money and resources to do that with Dark Horse, and then just still tell good stories, but also have them done in a way that's a little more unique.
The thing, and I'm going to probably say this throughout, our interview is, and you've seen my notes, is that you want to give the readers, you want the readers to be more of an active reader, because like you said, just holding the comic book cover to a light to see the secret code, and I'm holding up my Harlan Ellison's Angry Candy book, because because when I was doing research about you kind of, and I'm sure other authors have done this, but you kind of remind me a little bit of Harlan Ellison, how he does his books.
I'll take that compliment any day. Thanks. Harlan's genius.
Yes, because I mean, it's like, it's like, I'm reading his stories, and and it's like, it's straightforward, and all of a sudden, I come across a page where it looks like some type of Egyptian hybrid bird, and one word on top, and that's the whole page. And I can't remember if it was in this book or if it was another book where he had the words, he had the part of the page, all the words spiral down into the middle, which was like, oh my God, but the thing is that he wants to, and it's part of, I'm sure it's part of his creative, what he wanted to do, but also too is to make, the readers also to be a participant, because most of the time it's either we open open a magazine, a book, or whatever, and it's, it's just read, right to left, right, and close it, pile, done.
I think when I started working on mind management, it really sunk in for me that, like, comics cost like $4 or $5 each, and they're 24 pages at the most. They're 24 pages, and then you're reading, and I've been reading comics my whole life, and so I'm paying $5 or $6 for a comic and I'm taking 10 minutes to read it, and it's like, even if I force myself to slow down and read it, I was like, okay, because I'm gonna savor it and look at the art and then read this story. 10 or 15 minutes isn't enough. That's not enough entertainment time. Like, for me, part of it is like math too, right? Like, I'll pay $10 for a movie ticket, but then it's 2 hours. Or I'll pay $60 for a video game, and that's going to be, it could be an ungodly amount of hours depending on what game it is. I don't. I have to limit that. That's a problem for me. But Elden Ring, I'm looking at you. I had to quit. I haven't played in 2 weeks. But yeah, so to me, your entertainment dollar, like just as a consumer, I was like, it doesn't make sense for me to pay $5 for 10 minutes of entertainment, you know, because the collectability doesn't mean anything to me anymore. I don't really, I collect comics in that I put them on the shelf, you know, or usually if I'm real excited, I'll buy the single issues and then I'll just give those away and then buy the book when it's done. So when I was doing my management, I felt like I owed it to readers to put as much as I possibly could into every page and every part of it, not just the story pages, but the inside covers, the back covers, everything. And so I added text on the side. I have these backup stories. I did inside cover stories. I did fake ads that sort of tied into the theme of that issue. And I think it was like so much work, but I was like, well, this is what it takes. Like for me now, like that book is worth $4 an issue, you know, and if you buy the trade, it's like $20 or $25 for one of the trades. That's definitely worth your money. Like you're gonna get like that's like it's more like video game level amount of time per dollar, you know. So if you're just looking at the math, which the nerd in me does, I was like, oh, well, it's pretty economical entertainment. So I think ever since then, that's how I've sort of tried to approach it too, is like I want it to be worth it, you know. Like I love comics. I think they can do so much. And I think there's so much untapped. Like I think if you're just doing a comic that you can just flip through and read and then go on to the next one, I was like, you're missing the power of comics, you know. There's so much you can do. And I think that's what I used to call them little time bombs. Like I would put like I'd hide things in comics too, and I still do. Like it's in everything I've done. It's just like a subtle thing, not just like a hidden subliminal message or something, but just like subtle little things with design or with character or something in the background that's like you don't notice the first time. Maybe you don't notice it the second time you read it, but the third time you read it, you're like, oh my God, there's an extra thing there. And it's just sort of like, it's the time bomb that it blows up when you discover it, you know? And I think, I remember this hit me, God, back in the 1990s, late 90s, when there was an issue of Blab, which is like an anthology magazine comic book. And Chris Ware had done a cover, and on the cover was like this, it was like a little Orphan Annie parody. He had done like this illustration of the city, and she's in the city, and then around the outside edge of it was like these other little comic strip, and I didn't look that close at it, you know. And then one day it was on my bathroom reading stack, you know. This is before we had phones in the bathroom. But so I was sitting there, and I was just staring at the cover, and I was like, oh my God, the outside story tells the story of what's going on in the main image. And it was something I had been looking at for probably 6 months and never picked up on. And then it just clicked, and I was like, well, that's what I want. I want all of my books to have that moment where you read it and you're like, oh, that was good, and then you come back to it, or you look at it again later, or it's just sitting on the shelf and you're like, is that? Or, you know, turn upside down and you see something, you know. It's that moment to me is so fun. It like adds so much value to the story, just to have those extra little things in it.
I'm gonna say that's pretty cool. And I'm gonna say also to add all those little details in the background or subtle things. It also, and correct me if I'm wrong, but to me it sounds like it also touches on your creative side too. Like not only just trying to give the value of the comic, but it's like for you, it's also for you to go, it sounds like it also for part of you to be fulfilled in doing the work you put in. I hope that makes sense, you know.
Yeah, no, I mean, I just have fun. Like I went to art school, but learned graphic design as well. So I've always had control over the entire project, not just the story, the pages in the middle between the covers, but like the actual covers. So I even approach like the design of the book and the covers, the inside covers. None of that is not considered, and it's part of the story. Like the cover of the book is the first page of the story. That's your introduction to the story. And so I think that is as important as anything else. You know, if anything, the most important, it has to first of all get you to pick it up off the shelf.
Yes.
Second of all, it has to get you to open it, you know, and then also it needs to do a good job of like portraying what's going on inside, or get you, you know, it begins the story.
Yes.
And then the last thing it has to do is like when you're done with the story, you look at it again, and then that cover has to, you have to have more knowledge, or the meaning of the cover changes after you've read the book. So when you look at it that last time, you're like, oh, now this cover means something completely different. You know, I feel totally different about it. And so now when it's on the shelf, that book has forever been changed by you having read it, you know, rather than just sitting there. It's changed. So like, I think about that stuff as much as the story, you know, and it's just as important.
Wow, that is great. That's great, man. I'm going to continue on because I want to touch upon your imprint with Dark Horse. Now, where did you get the idea of Flux House? Where did you get the idea of Flux House imprint? Where did it come from?
It probably came from like college. When I went to school, we took this one class. It's like a performance art class. It was like, it wasn't all performance art. It was like foundations. So it was like all kinds of art, but there was a whole section on performance art, which at the time I'm like, it says no bearing on my life. I'm never going to use this. What is the point of this? And it was just like the craziest stuff. It was like, there's this artist that would actually just like hammer a nail into his hand and like, and crazy stuff as part of his art. And I was like, well, I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
I prefer writing and drawing, you know, but as I got older, and I'm going to conventions, and I'm signing books and sketching in the books and everything, and then realizing I was like, oh, this is it's a little bit of a performance, you know, to sign. And if you're doing a drawing in a book, it was like, well, you're doing a public drawing, your art is on display and somebody's watching you do it. And so I started to think, I was like, well, there's got to be a more fun way to do this.
Yes.
You know? And then I remembered that class with the performance art and how they would do these crazy things like whatever. And so then that's why I did a book called The Tooth, which Colin Bunn wrote. And then there's a page in there where it's like an ad where you can cut the ad out. What I do when I sign the book is I sketch on that panel, and then I cut it out and I glue it in the front. And the way it works is the part I cut out now, the panel behind it sort of works the page in front of it as you read it. It all works together. I was like, well, that was fun, because then that made signing the books more fun. I was cutting some of the book up, and it was because of that art class I had. And I was like, well, this is cool. Now I'm doing something active, you know, at conventions. It's not just drawing. It's drawing, and I'm doing something else. And I did the book. Red Handed was another book where I figured out a way to do the kind of the similar thing, where it's just the corner page, of the page, and I'll burn the part of that book.
Yeah. And
that was even more fun, because now I'm lighting stuff on fire, which is always a little fun.
Yeah.
But also, here's the thing, thematically, I felt like it fit in. That was a crime book, and I was like, I'm committing like kind of an arsonist act, or whatever, signing the book. And so to me, it was important that it fit the story of the book too. It's not just to do it, you know.
Yeah.
You know, even though I will say I had that idea for bringing a book for a long time, and I kept looking for a place. I was like, this book, no, it doesn't work. This book, no, it doesn't work. That book, yeah, okay, it works in this one. So I do have a lot of ideas like that floating around, where I'm like, it's like a crazy thing that I can do, or a design idea, and then I just wait till there's a book that it thematically fits, and then I can use it. But yeah, so with Flux House, that's kind of where I'm just trying to turn the volume up on that and do interesting things with the design.
Yes.
We're doing a book. There's an Evil Cat book we're doing that's going to have like a fur cover to it, which was ridiculous, but it fits the book. It's going to creepy and weird and furry.
Yeah.
Doing the Mind Management Bootleg, the 4-issue thing. There's like a special edition or special covers that are going to be polybagged, and they come with a playing card. And I was like, that's totally like a 90s idea of like polybagging and like putting something in a, which I'm on the fence about, right? Like I'm not into comics to collect them as collectibles. I really think comics are meant to be bought and read and enjoyed. So that's how I feel. It's not stamps. We're not collecting stamps and coins here. We're making stories. But also I wanted to do something weird with the Mind Management relaunch. And so we have these cards, but I was like, well, what's the card? If it's just art, like I throw those away or use them as bookmarks as a dom. But each playing card is like a standard playing card that you can fit into any deck of cards, like any 52 card standard deck, and it has special rules on it. So depending on what game you're playing, you play it as part of any game you're playing, so that it's compatible with any card game you would ever play. It sort of breaks a rule or adds a rule or something to it. So every issue is going to have like one of those cards in there that is like there's a character and it makes thematic sense with the story. But it's also when I just stick it in your deck of cards.
That is.
I don't know.
That is so cool, but it's I mean, going back to like but the thing, it's more of it touches on your creative side, how how to get the readers more involved, and for the readers to go when they get the polybag, they're gonna go, wait a minute, I want to hear, I've heard about these cards. Well, if I'm gonna play with my friends with cards one day, I'm gonna stick this in the deck, and it's to add a little bit more excitement, it's kind of sort of just kind of adds a little more excitement to it.
No, it's good, and I hope like it's polybagged, and the polybag is printed over the top, so there's like a clear panel in it though, so that reveals something, so you sort of interacts with what's on inside. And we actually we did special covers, variant covers with different artists doing the front cover, but we had to. My idea didn't work, like for the polybag. We have to polybag them backwards. So like the actual back cover is acting as the cover for the polybag covers because there's a clear panel that's going to show some special art I did. but it was so it's like the weirdest polybag you've seen. But I do hope, like, the idea is like open it up. And then whatever, use your weird cards.
Let's see. No, but it's just so cool. And the thing is, it's like again, it's to deepen the experience for the the readers too, because like you said, it's when you go to the conventions, like one of the books you did a little control burn where you just burnt the corner. Because it adds a little bit more to, again, not only for you to give a little bit more meaning to to us, the readers, but also the reader, or one of your fans has a story, go, hey man, I went to a Hawaii con, man, Kindt was there, he burnt the corner off of this comic book, that was so cool, and they get it's a great experience. It's a moment that they'll remember,
I remember going to see, I saw Dave Eggers. He came and read his from his book at the local university here in St. Louis. He came and it was like a speaking engagement where he came and read from his book. It was a heartbreaking work of staggering genius, like his first, I think it was his first book. Anyway, he came, and what stuck with me is he came, and then the very first thing he did, he's like, hey, the university paid me $3,000 to come here and read from this book. So I cashed a check and I got it all in $5 bills, and then he handed a $5 bill out to everybody in the audience, and I was like, what? What are you doing? Like, because it wasn't about the money, right? It was like, that struck me. And I was like, this is a guy who cares about writing, and he cares about books. And then everybody, I had him sign my book, and that $5 bill is like, it's in my book. Like that's part of the book now, you know. And it was like that's a moment you never forget. And I was like, there's got to be ways to do that make it that are interesting because it's about the content of the book, but it's also creating a memory, and also just kind of having fun. Like it had to be so fun giving out $5 bills.
Yeah.
I gotta figure out a way to do that.
That one we won't tell Dark Horse, all right?
Yeah, no, I'm like, maybe I'll give a $1 bill.
I'm joking.
I don't know. We'll figure it out. All
right. So I'm sorry. I'm gonna start backtracking a little bit. So, how did you partner up with Dark Horse regarding Flux House?
I'd been doing some books with them already, and I've been working with Dark Horse for a long time. And Mike Richardson, who's president of Dark Horse, been there forever. Like he started Dark Horse like when I was just a fan of comics, and I'm reading the Legends line with Frank Miller and Paul Chadwick and Mike Mignola and like God, who else? John Byrne back then. It was like Jeff Darrow. All huge. I was a huge fan of all of those guys and everything. So I was a fan of Dark Horse from then, you know, and I know they always had like a good, interesting balance of like license work, but then also this creator-owned stuff, which is so important. And then Mike, I remember I had pitched Mind Management to Vertigo at the time, and then they didn't. It was like it got to a certain point. It was like it was too weird. It wasn't. They didn't understand it, which is okay. Part of it could have been my fault in pitching it, you know. So I'm not no shade on Vertigo at all. Because I did book Revolver with them, and it was great. But I took so Mind Management I pitched to someone at Dark Horse, and then the editor, one of the editors was like, hey, we're not. I pitched it as 56 issues, monthly series. You know, I'm doing everything, and then an editor there was like, we're not really doing series right now. We're only doing graphic novels. I was like, because that's what Vertigo had said too, and I was like, okay. I was like, I guess I'm not doing a series. I wanted to do one monthly series, you know, and just try to do it all on my own. And then a couple weeks or months later, I think I had a different book coming out, and Mike Richardson called me up, and he was like, "Why aren't we doing your next book?" And I was like, "I don't talk to Mike. Mike's not a person that I call on the phone all the time." And like, I've said hi to him, thanks to him at a couple of shows, and he took me out to dinner with some other people. But he's not a person that I ever talked to on the phone. So he called me. I was like, "Why are you calling me up?" I'm thinking, "Why are you calling me?"
Surprise, right?
He's like, "Why aren't we doing your next book?" And I was like, I pitched this 56 issue thing monthly, and then like I was told that we're not doing month. He's like, that's nonsense. He's like, it's like we're doing it. Send me the pitch. So I was like, okay. So I sent him my 56 issue pitch for like, which is like a 5-year series, you know, monthly series. And then he's like, okay, let's do it. And I was like, oh my God, why? And it was like he liked my other books. He liked 3 Story. Like he was a fan of my other books, and so he was just supporting me, you know. Like, and here I didn't know he knew who I was exactly or like any of that. And then so he approved that 50, and then I was like, okay. And then I was like, oh my God, that's going to be 5 or 6 years of my life. How about we'll do a 3-year, 36 issue, and then I'll just cram it all into. I can get 5 years into 3-year series, you know. And it was like, okay. And then I did a monthly book for 3 years, and it almost killed me, but I did it. But so that's why I'm working with Dark Horse, because I mean the short answer is Mike has supported me my whole career, and when I pitched him this idea, I had a whole line of books and all these crazy ideas for covers, and I want to do a book that's like a deck of cards, and I want to do another book that's like magazine sized. He's like okay, you know what I mean, he was excited about it, so that's why.
Oh no, but that's pretty cool. How, you know, I'm going to ask you, can you describe how now you said that they've been very, Dark Horse has been very supportive, especially Mike, who's been very supportive of your career. Can I ask you, can you describe how excited you were when, they said, yeah, let's do the Flux House imprint, you know, you know, was it like, can you describe how excited you were when they said, hey, let's do this, let's do your Flux House imprint, like, was it, oh, sorry.
Yeah, no. I would say, I'm going to tell you, I was excited for like 60 seconds. I was so excited. And then immediately I was terrified. It was similar to, it's like pitching a 6-year monthly series that you're doing all by yourself and then getting it approved and being like, whoa, well, wait, okay, what have I done? What have I done? And so I did. I was like all excited because I have all these crazy ideas. And then now I'm like, oh my God, now I have to execute.
Yes.
I have to make sure that these books are good. I have to make sure that we don't, like, I don't want to lose money. Like, I don't want to do a fur covered book that is so expensive, nobody will buy it. So we have to figure out, like, part of it for me is now balancing like the business part of like navigating like the comic book industry and the financial part of it with like, how do we make it so it's a viable project? Not just, it's one thing to like pitch it for a covered book, but it's another thing to like make that a reality. So it's happening. It's all happening. It's just like, it's so much work, they're like, in all the design, I want to have my hand on every part of the design. I don't want to hand anything off. So it's just a lot of extra, but it's important to me. It's like, I want these books to be, I feel like there's digital comics and then there's so much good television and movies. There's so much, and video games are so good now. Like, I was like, how do you compete with that?
Yes.
Like if somebody's just going to download a digital $10 PDF of your comic and read it on an iPad and the color looks so good, like like the colors on the iPad are so juicy and great. Like, I like seeing comics on it because it's so bright. But I was like, well, how do you beat that? The convenience. You can't beat the convenience. But how do you beat the value and then what you're getting? And I was like, well, the only way to do that is to make the book an actual art object, make the book something that's critical to the story, and your experience in reading it, And so I think that's what I've been doing. I've been approaching every one of these books as something that you can get digitally. You'll read it. You can read. You're going to be able to read the Evil Cat book digital, and then the cover will look like, I guess it'll look like fur on your iPad, but it's not going to feel like fur.
Yes.
And I'm trying to think. And then the magazine, we're doing a couple magazine-sized books too that are going to be, they're bigger than the iPad. So like, if you want to see it big and great, like, you're going to have to get the actual magazine, and like it's going to be designed to look great and just like something that you'll want to have on your shelf. Really, like I love collecting books, graphic novels, comics. Like, but the ones I keep are the ones that look cool.
Yes.
I have to like the story, but they also have to look really cool. It's going to be both of those.
I'm going to jump just a little bit of ahead, because I'm going to come back to Mind Management Bootleg in a minute. But like, I know that your imprint will cover different genres such as crime, science fiction, humor stories. Can you talk about any of these titles right now? Like, what can we expect in the next 6 months or next year? If you can't, that's fine.
Yeah, I'm not sure how much I can say. And then, but yeah, the bootleg, Mind Management Bootleg is the first one, and then I'm working with. I've sort of, over the last few years, I've been comfortable working with certain creators that I really just like bonded with, and like we have a trust working together. So I'm drawing 2 books, and then one of them my wife is painting. Charlene's painting one of them. So we're doing that. She's working on it now. We just went over the first issue of it, and it looks cool because she painted it. So there's one I'm working on with her that's like spy genre is what I would say. Going back to spies, I can't get away from them. And then I'm drawing another book that's like a year away, so I won't talk about that one.
Oh, no, yeah.
But then and then I'm working with David Rubin. We're doing another book together.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm working with Wilfredo Torres, we did Bang together.
Mm-hmm.
And people have been asking us about a follow-up to Bang, which we are going to do. We have like 3 books planned, 2 more books planned, I guess. But I wanted to do this other one first. It's going to be like an oversized magazine size, like epic thing. So I'm working on one with him, and then I'm doing one with Tyler Jenkins. And so and then we haven't announced any of those books yet, but I'll at least talk about my favorite creators that I like working with, and then those are the guys, So, and with Tyler, his Hillary Jenkins is painting it too. So it's like we've done so many books together. We did Grass Kings, Black Badge, Apache Delivery Service, and now this one. So that might be my most collaborative team I've worked with between them and David Rubin.
I'm going to ask, I'm just going to ask you, I know you named the number of artists, your wife painting one of the books. I'm going to ask, do you want to give any other shout outs to other people that you're working with on your upcoming comics? Any cover artists, any letterers, any editors? I know it's a ton, but
Yeah, no, I'll just do, like, Bootleg was one of those things that's been in the works for like 2 years. And so Farrell Dalrymple is one of my favorite artists. Like, I was just a fan of his, and approached him at a show, and I was like, hey, we should do something together sometime. And he's like, okay. And I was like, but I never really believe it, So it's like, okay, like I'm just some guy bugging you about working together. But anyway, so when he agreed to do it, I was so excited. And then we got Matt Lesniewski, who I'd worked with before on Crimson Flower. He's one of those guys. You just gotta pay attention to him because he's still young. He's so fast, and he's just like fully formed. Like, his stuff is just like gets better and better every day. But he was already like out of the box, was like fully formed, totally unique. Like, nobody like him. I was looking at his stuff the other day. I'm like, he's kind of like, he's like a little bit of art crumb mixed with, and then it was like Will Eisner. Like, if you jammed Will Eisner and art crumb together, I was like, that's what, but it's not that even either. I keep trying to want to compare him, and it's always unfair, and artists hate that when you do it.
Yeah. I
don't mind it, because it's like, usually it's somebody better than me. So I was like, oh, I'll take that.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's so hard to pigeonhole, but he really is just unique. And David Rubin's did an issue of my management was whatever. I just love working with him. We did, me and David and Jeff Lemire worked on a Kickstarter book, Cosmic Detective, which is being printed this week as we speak. It's being printed, and that's coming out. We'll be shipping those in the summer.
Oh, okay.
But so David's awesome, and then Jill Thompson's drawing and painting the issue 4 of it. So that's like I'm just trying not to be, a big nerdy fan. But I was like, it's Jill Thompson. Like, I send her like the most gushing emails about like how amazing it is to have her doing this, and the pages look so good, and whatever. So it's comics has been so fun and weird, and then the older I've gotten and the better I've done. I got to work with Jill, and then Jeff Darrow I talked to. We like talk on the phone. I'm totally dropping names now, but I was like, he came up to me. One of my most favorite moments at a convention was Jeff Darrow walking up and wanting the last volume of Mind Management. Like, he wanted volume 6. I was like, first 2 things. One is Jeff Darrow coming up to me, and the second thing is like, volume 6 means he read the first 5. I was like, you're reading this? I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, anyway, it was just it was so funny, but we sort of hit it off, and anyway, and he did a cover for me for the end of Mind Management, the issue 36. He did a variant that was hanging up out there in the other room. But anyway, so that's one of my favorite moments. It's just makes it worth doing comics when you can have people of that stature come up and just chat with you.
Mm-hmm. That is awesome. That is really awesome. Let's see. I want to talk I just want to talk a little bit about Mind Management Bootleg that's going to come out. Correct me if I'm wrong. Sometime in July, correct?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't ask me.
Oh no. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I meant to look up what date, and I forgot to look that up.
I'm pretty sure it's July, but yeah, don't ever rely on me for any kind of fact checking.
Now, I'm sorry, I'm going to ask this question, but I want to ask it for new comic book readers, because if someone's interested about Mind Management Bootleg and just what we talked about, of your imprint, may I ask, for new comic book readers, may I ask, can you describe what the Mind Management series is about?
Yeah, well, I'm terrible at pitching, so it's not going to be a good pitch, but I will say, like the general premise is it's spies with mind powers, and there's like a secret organization that's been recruiting people to sort of tap into the untapped powers of their mind, and really, when I approach mind management, to me the idea is to just take reality and turn it up by like 20%, so like things, if you believe in mind over body, or like that you can like believe yourself into healing something, even if you have like even if you believe that a little bit, this is like taking that little bit of belief and then making like, okay, well, what if now like you could heal yourself from like a gunshot?
Yeah.
So it's like it's based in reality, almost. but yeah, so that's kind of the take, and it's just, to me, it's just like a lot of it's people. I'm doing one thing, but then the feedback I always get is like, this book makes me sort of feel paranoid, or makes me feel like I'm not getting everything. And I was like, well, that's good, because it should make you feel paranoid, and you're definitely not getting everything. Like, go back and look. I could point any issue. I could just be like, here's the thing. I could write a companion book that goes through every page, and I've thought about doing it, but it was like, it's so much work.
Oh, yeah.
Part of the fun is like discovering those things on your own. But yeah, so I'd say Spies of Mind Powers, this new series is like a good jumping on point. And I just talked to David Hyde. I talked to him this morning. He's like, hey, everybody always says, this is like a good jumping on point if you've never read anything before. He's like, this is actually a good jumping on point.
Okay. Oh, okay. All right.
And so when I'm saying, I'm not saying it because I hope you buy this one. I'm saying because it really is like, you don't need to have read anything else. And I consciously was doing that because it's been a few years since the last Mind Management, and I didn't want to do a thing where like, oh, now I gotta go read like 36 issues of something else.
Yeah.
Oh, man, just do this one. It's its own. It's kind of a standalone thing. There are, if you've read the old stuff, like there's little echoes and nods to some things that you'll pick up on.
Yeah.
But it's not important. And it's 4 new characters, and they're all like, they're being recruited anew by like the head of Mind Management, who's whatever. I won't spoil too much.
No,
but,
yeah.
And then to go on some crazy mission and involving I won't say.
Yeah, don't. Yeah, don't. but the thing is, but Matt, I understand. But first off, that's great that with Mind Management Bootleg, it's going to be kind of a fresh start to it with, like you said, little echoes here and there of the previous series, and like with most, like how we jumped into comics, everybody jumps into comics is we always jump in the middle of a story, right? And then it's like, okay, if this is good, I want to read what happened before. So hopefully people go back to, there was, like someone go, yeah, I remember hearing about this. Let me go back to, let me get volume number 1.
Yeah, no, it's good. I think ideally that would happen, but I always approach Mind Management in a unique way from anything else I've done, only because it is like the longest thing I've done. And it's the most. But I also I always keep wanting to revisit the world and do things with it. But I never really wanted to continue this. I don't want to like restart the series or do a whole new series. And so over the years, instead of doing that, I've consciously tried to do things that are standalone that fit into the universe to tie into like those first 36 issues as like that's the base. But then everything I do after that is like a standalone thing that ties into it, but is also its own thing, but also a different format. So like I did a book and record where you listen to the record and you read along with it.
Oh my God.
I was like, well, that's its own thing. And I've wanted to do a book and record, read along book and record forever. It just happened. So like it seemed like it made sense with mind management. There's like if you play it backwards, there's a secret message on both sides. So that's the thing I did that was like technically like a sequel or like a whatever. And then I did we did a board game this last year. So the board game is its own thing. And then inside the board games is as nutty as the book. Inside the board game, there's 14 little boxes. And in each box, there's like extra rules and extra stuff to play the game. But there's also a little mini comic in every one. So there's 14 mini comics, 8-page mini comics in that game. So, but it's designed too for, I assume that people buying the game, they're not going to know the comic, you know?
Yeah.
So you're buying, and so you're learning about mind management. It's its own thing that stands alone. But if you know mind management comics, then it's like, oh my God, this is like, ties in. And then I'm trying to think, there's like one other thing we did. So there is, in addition to that game, this is where I got the idea for the playing cards, is we did a deck of mind management playing cards that are coming out this summer, around the same time as the comic, I think in August, so like a month later. And the playing cards, it's a deck of 52 with all new art and everything, but every one of those cards has its own little rule that changes the rules of any game you're playing. So it's a whole deck of those, and so you can play any game with that deck, and then every card is going to be screwed up in some fun way. But that's why the cards I put into the comics can be put into that. They match that deck exactly. Yeah. But the ones in the comics are actually they'll match that deck, so you can slide them right in. But they stand out, so like they work in any deck in a way where it's like if you have a hand of cards, it's obvious you've got one of the weird ones, right? But if you have all 4 of them, you've got one of 4 weird ones. So they know you have a weird one, but they don't know which one. So they don't know what you're going to do with it. But the idea is they know you have it, so they're kind of paranoid that I was like, oh, he's got that weird card. What's he going to do with it? So it's anyway, everything sort of ties into everything, but also stands alone.
I'm going to say it, that is genius. It is. No, because the thing is, because again, it's, if, for fans of mind management, not only for, the comic book series, but if they hear about the game, they're going to play it and they're going to go, and like you said, it can be tied in, but then it can also be a standalone too, which is great.
Yeah, no, it's amazing how the board game debuted, when, like at the end of last year, maybe, or over the last summer, and then we sold out. We reprinted, so the new printing's coming in August. But it was amazing how many people like board games. I'm a huge board game fan, so I went to Gen Con like 5 years ago for the first time, and I was like, "What's going on here? What's all this?"
Yeah,
And then I just got sucked into board games. Like I'm such a huge, like that's my only hobby now. But it was amazing to me how many people bought the game. They didn't know it was a comic, and it's like there's such a huge untapped audience that would read comics, wants to read comics. They just, they don't know. Maybe they just haven't, or they stopped reading them when they were a kid.
Yeah.
But there was a huge crossover audience for board gamers in the comics, so it was kind of fun.
But again, like I'm going to say, that's genius, because again, it's, looking outside the comic field, to how do you, it's, I think it's a great way to literally expand just that one story, your story of mind management to different areas.
Yeah, it's the one thing I've done that's like thematically makes sense too, that it would infiltrate every part of your life.
Yeah.
not just like your books, not just your games. Your card game is weird now, and then hopefully television. I'm working on television. I can't talk about, but, but like if I could if you can imagine what that would do to your like a weird streaming show.
Yeah.
How strange that could be. Like that's what we're trying to build with that as well, and just make it like the thing is like you're just applying now the weirdness of my management and like its sort of subversive nature to everything in your life, which is kind of fun.
Like I said, that's genius. And also too, it's great because you're still looking for inspirations, to put, to add to your storytelling. And it's not just with my management, because I'm sure you've got other things where it's like, I want to do this, but I got to wait to see how I can fit this right and not just throw it in and, yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm working on one of the Flex House things is going to be, I'm calling them story decks, and they're decks of cards. It's a story. So the first one I'm doing is like a time travel story where you flip through them in order and read the story, and at the end there's time travel. There's directions like, all right, now flip these 10 cards, put it in this order, and I'll read it again, and then you can read it, and it sort of like works in a loop. So like it's a time travel story that loops around itself, and it's a deck of cards. So every deck is going to be like a panel, but it's just like I have a big map of the whole story, and it's so complicated to figure out. That's like, but it's fun. It's like, to me, I was like, that's still comics. It's like a little, it's gonna be a nice little pocket-sized book that you can flip through and read, and it's almost like the act of reading it is like swiping on your phone.
Yes,
tactile deck of cards. So that's fun. That's probably a next year project. Flex House Stage 2.
That is great. Again, it's like, that is so great because again, it's to make the readers be a participant.
Yeah, no, it's fun. I think anytime you hold a book, you're participating, right? Like the feel of whatever you're feeling, it's all working on a subconscious level. Like even like what stock they picked for the book, and then like the art in the front and the back, and like everything about it is like making you feel a certain way about the story, and there's nothing better than like a well-designed book to make you just excited to pick it up and look at it, and so like I just think I want to pay, I want comics to be as cool as anything.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Sorry, Matt, I'm going to try to wrap this up because I'm just to wrap this up. Now I'm just saying, I'm just asking, and in the future, will you give like a writer, artist who's been in the business for a while to be able to play in the in your sandbox?
Oh yeah, I've thought about that, and then I've worked with artists before. I don't know about collaborating with a writer.
Oh, that's fine.
But I think me and Jeff Lemire have written together, and so I would consider doing that. And then honestly, me and Keanu Reeves working together has been almost the same relationship. So those are the two people I would trust.
Yeah,
it's tough. Writing is different because there's potentially more ego involved, and then because of it's the story, like the idea, and then like how do you split it up? So it's trickier to write things, but I can't imagine handing over something I've created to another writer to write. I don't think I could do it. But I wouldn't be opposed to in the future using Flux House as a way to help promote like other creators among like a writer or an artist or somebody that fits like this, what these books are. I wouldn't be opposed to that, but I just think right now it's early on. I would want to establish like what we are first.
Yes.
And then sort of fold people in as I can. But I'd love to use this as a way to like promote some of my favorite people in comics, and hopefully we get there.
Yeah. Oh, okay. All right. Now, this next question, let me just kind of give the audience where I'm coming from, the listeners. So now I know I read in the press release that, some of your Flux House comics, of course, you already mentioned about one cover will have fur. I also read one of the covers would have a punch card dust jacket that reveals a secret message.
Oh,
now,
yeah.
I'm joking.
About that one.
Actually, let me. You want to talk about that for a little bit before I ask my question?
Yeah, sure. We're this book. I guess we're not announcing the book yet because we haven't announced it. But
Okay.
I can talk all about the design.
Yes,
They
yes,
said-
yeah.
They didn't say I couldn't do that. But yeah, it's the cover and back. It's hardcover. Front and back cover is all just a bunch of letters,
Uh-huh.
and then there's like a belly band that will be like the dust jacket
Uh-huh.
that wraps around it. And so what I've done is I have a special hole punch. I had to get a special hole punch because the regular ones don't work. They're not long. They won't reach all the way across this thing. And then, so when I sign it, I'll punch out certain holes, and then when you wrap it around the book, it'll reveal secret codes. So there's probably like maybe 15 different messages hidden into the book that aren't revealed until I punch out the right holes, and then you can line it up and read the secret message.
Now I'm going to ask my question, and I'm joking on this part. Now, will one of the messages read, "Drink your Ovaltine"?
There's one message that is not exactly that, but it's the modern equivalent. It's like whatever you think the modern equivalent of that is, that there is one of those.
Okay. All right. I'm slowly wrapping things up. I'm going to ask, please promote your YouTube channel. I caught a clip of it, one where you're signing your I can't remember. I guess the recent edition of Mind Management. But yeah, I'm going to ask if you can just promote your YouTube channel.
Yeah. I don't know what the address is, but if you just go to YouTube and search my name, it probably pops up right away. But yeah, I've been trying to post a little bit of everything, like process stuff. Just like there's a studio tour, and then just different odds and ends, different things here or there. But go subscribe to it. And then there's more. I did the most popular video on there so far has been like the writing tutorial where I shot a video of myself writing a screenplay in real time, or not a screenplay, a script, comic book script in real time. Like as I had the outline and I just talked through the whole process, which is like maybe one of the most hardest way to ever write a script ever is to video yourself doing it in real time and then talk about what you're doing and everything you're thinking about while you're doing it. So if there's one video, I would recommend that one only because I'll never do it again. It was too hard. And then so go check it out. I think it's entertaining.
All right. Now I'm going to ask this question. I think you touched upon the answer a little bit, but I wanted to ask this question is, what is the most fun or exciting thing that you love working in comics right now?
That I'm working on?
Or no, what do you love about work? What's one of the most fun or exciting things that you love working in comics right now? You know,
that I'm enjoying. You think like consuming of comics? Boy, that's tough.
Process or
I don't know. For me, like drawing is like the most fun thing. Like I don't get to do it enough because I've been writing so much. So I think drawing. I've been doing back covers for this new Mind Management comic because we realized that the back covers need to be the front covers, but that means there needed to be art on them. So I had to draw those kind of under duress because of the deadline. I didn't realize it was my fault. I didn't realize how we were gonna have to bag them. And then I think there's a surprise backup story in Mind Management that I wrote and drew, painted, that my wife saw the pages when they're out and she's like, this is the best thing you've ever done. So like maybe that's the thing I'm most excited about, because I worked in a different style on purpose, like under a pseudonym. I was like, I'm gonna use a pseudonym and do like, so that frees me up to like paint a different way and draw a different way, and people aren't expecting anything. And then so I did that, and then Charlene was like, she's like, what is this for? Right. I was like, oh, you like it? And anyway, so that made me probably the most excited I've been in a while, just because she liked it.
All right. Let's see. do you know when your next convention or store signing appearance will be?
Yeah,
In the
I'm
fall.
doing Charlene and I are both doing Heroes Con in Charlotte in next month.
Okay.
And I just found out that there might be a chance I'm going to San Diego.
Oh,
But that's not for sure yet. So I don't,
okay.
I'm not 100%. I'm like 80% thinking I'm going.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Oh, okay.
Stay tuned.
All right. 2 more questions. Have you and your family been to Hawaii?
Yes, we've been there 4 times. And then on your previous question, if HawaiiCon, everyone needs me out there, I would be out there in a heartbeat. It literally is our favorite place on earth. I came out there years ago when I was working on Department H. I was like, I'm gonna use this as research, right? And we did snorkeling. I was gonna go diving, but then I chickened out because I'm scared of drowning. So, we did a lot of snorkeling, and then technically it was research and everything, but definitely was inspiration. There's a cover I drew while we were there that was just like totally inspired by it. But it's just the greatest place on earth. The last time, 2 times ago, I came back and I was like, I don't honk my horn. I don't use my horn anymore, and I refuse to honk. It's because of the last time we were there. I was like, nobody honks here. This is like everything is so chill. I mean, it's exactly like it's like what I want my personality to be. And most people think I'm like chill all the time and laid back, and I am most 90% of the time. But there's 10% where I'm just like stressed out or whatever. But we came back that one time. I was like, I'm never honking my horn again. I'm like, I'm gonna drive chill and be calm all the time. And yeah, it's changed my life.
I'm gonna so no, I take it you've been to Oahu, right? Have you been?
Oahu,
What about
Maui, and the Big Island.
Okay.
We've been to Big Island twice, and then Maui and Oahu, and then yeah, I don't know where we're going next, but
okay.
It's hard. We're always like, which one? Where's our favorite? What's our whatever? There's no way to choose. If you if you have a backyard I could live in or whatever, I'd probably stay. So let me know.
All right. Final question. Any closing words to our listeners?
I don't know, just be kind to one another. That's all.
Okay. All right. So Matt, I wish you all the best and all the success for your Flux House imprints with Dark Horse Comics. And I want to say mahalo, thank you in Hawaiian, for your time. And thank you for giving me the opportunity to interview. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, man. Appreciate the time.
No, thank you. And then I also want to thank Hannah and David of Super Fan Promotion for help setting up the interview. So Hannah, David, thank you very much. If you are a new comic book reader or a lifelong comic book reader, please check out Matt Kindt's Flux House imprint from Dark Horse. The first book from this imprint will be Mind Management Bootleg, that's going to come out in July. And like Matt has talked about, there's going to be playing cards that's going to come out in August. There's going to be, I guess, like a reprint or a second edition or second printing of the Mind Management board game. Matt, I gotta say, just talking to you is great because you're expanding storytelling to different areas, not just in comics, but it just also too is to have people interact with each other too, whether it's the board games, the card playing games. That's just amazing. And giving fans the experience of when they come and see you at a convention, depending on the comic, you do certain things that, that's going to give them a lifelong memory.
Yeah, you have no idea. I want you to be a little scared when you come up that something might be doused with water or caught on fire.
or that cat book you talk about is like the first one that comes to get your sign, you pull out this little box with a cat in there and you go, this is your cat now.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I should partner with 10th Life. We have like a cat rescue place here or whatever. I should partner with them. That'd be a good idea. Don't give me good ideas. I'll carry those out.
All right. So again, listeners, so if you guys get a chance, please check out his books. I want to thank Drew, the host of Comics for Fun and Profit. Drew, thank you very much for putting this episode together. Thank you for all your hard work behind the scenes. And if you are a new listener, please check out new episodes of Comics for Fun and Profit that comes out every Saturday. And I want to thank you, the listeners. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you for listening to this episode. Until next time, guys. Aloha.
Hey, it's the good folks at Comics for Fun and Profit reminding you that nobody Patreons like we Patreon. So join us at C4FAP and go over to Patreon/ComicsFunProfit and sign up at a level of your choosing. There's various tiers with various goodies for you. Something that everyone gets at any level is you get to be a part of our Slack channel community, and you get early and ad-free access to all our episodes. But wait, there's more. So go over to Patreon/ComicsFunProfit and check out all we have to offer. We urge you, sign up today.